Hi everybody, this is a remake of Project 6 that I had linked from the list of projects. As I mentioned, Blender went through a major upgrade where the actual interface has changed a lot and where tools are located has changed. So I'm going to redo the video for you with Blender 2.8 X, whatever version you have, 2.81, 2.82. Okay, so this is the end result. I've got a photo box that I made. I did a quick mesh model of a bottle and copied it 2 times and moved it out on the X and the Y axis. Put in 2 spotlights, a main light, and then put a little splash on the other wall. And what that does is it allows the refraction of the glass to show us all this lovely, transmission and projection and all that. Okay, let me just show you. Let me close that. Actually, let me save this. I'm going to hit F3. I'm sorry. I'll deal with that later. Let me minimize this and just to show you, I'm using Cycles render engine, and that has a much better look for glass right now. If I were to switch over to Eevee, which is the default render engine, see what happens here. And they've made it quite a bit more difficult to get the glass to work as a material in Eevee. So I'm going to stick with Cycles for now and do things as we've always done them. So, all right, let's get started. So, File, New, General, don't save, discard changes, and here we have the main screen. So we're going to get rid of the box by hitting the letter X and left-click Delete, and then Shift-A and add a mesh circle. Now this default circle has 32 vertices and I want 8. So coming down to the very bottom left here, you see this little box that says Add Circle. Click that, and where it says vertices 32, make that 8. Enter, and then we can minimize this box again, leaving everything else alone. That little arrow is what minimized it. Very good. I'm going to move this up now. So I'm going to click on the Move tool right here, third one on the left, and just drag that straight up. And what I'm going to do next is switch over to Edit mode. And I'm going to hit number 1 on the keyboard, the numpad, to get to a front orthographic view here. And next we're going to extrude this, so I'm going to hit E and the letter Z for Z-axis and pull it down just a little ways. And let me pause for a moment to show you that we've got an octagon here, and to make that look more like a bottle, we'll subdivide it. We might as well model this with the subdivision surface modifier. So I click the wrench, add modifier, click subdivision surface, make the render 3 and viewport 3. And super. Okay. Okay, so I pulled it just a little bit. Now I'm going to hit E and then Enter to create a second set of points that we can extrude. And then I'm going to hit S for scale and pull that inward. And then we're going to hit E and Z and pull that down. Next, hit E and Enter to create another set of points, and S for scale, and pull that out. Zoom out a little bit. and then E and Z to go down. Okay, and I'm going to hold down Shift while I push my middle mouse button to pan upward and orbit up so you can see a little bit here at the bottom. I'm going to S that in just a little bit, scale it in just a little bit, and then hit E, enter for another set of points, and then S again to scale that new set in, and one more time, E, enter, S, pull it in, and then hit the letter F as in face, and it fills that in. All right. Now, in order to get, let me pan in a little bit of a sharper edge here. What I want to do is add what's called a loop cut. And to do that, I hit Control R, and then left click, and then before I do anything else, I use my mouse and drag this upward, and see what happens to that edge. It gets a bit sharper. So I'm going to just eyeball it till it looks good to me. This edge here, if we want that sharper, same thing. I can say Control R, left click, and pull that down just a little bit until the edge transition here looks just about like you want it. Good enough. And so one other thing is, let's make the top a little bit thicker. So hit the B. I'm going to just orbit up so I can just see these points, and B is in box tool. Click, left click to select these, and then same deal, we're going to hit E for extrude, enter to create a new set of points, then S, and hold on, S. For some reason they're going inward. E. I'm going to pause the video here for a second. Okay, I discovered why that wasn't moving the way I expected is because I had this ring loop cut that was still selected. So make sure everything is deselected by hitting the letter A twice. Then, so with all the points deselected, hit the letter B, left click, drag around these points, E for extrude, enter, and then the letter S, and pull that inward, left click, and then E, and then Z, and pull it downward, just like that, just to give some thickness up here. Okay, good. So let's go back over to object mode, upper left. You can hit the tab key or just pick it out like that. And number 1, and we're going to move the bottle up so that the bottom is on the crosshairs here, just like that. And the 3D cursor is here, so I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh Plane, S for scale, and 20. Enter. Next, I'm going to rotate around so that the camera is between me and the bottle, and tab again into edit mode, hit A twice to deselect everything, hit the number 2 to go into edge select mode up here, left click on that far edge, hold shift, left click, and then E and Z and pull it up. Good. And then left click, let's say tab back into object mode, left click on the lamp, and kind of bring it up and out a little bit like this. And for lamp properties, click the light bulb on the right here, and we're going to choose a spotlight. And you can see the size of it here and where it's pointing. Okay. At this point, I'm going to make the bottle into glass. So left click, object mode, down on the right here, click the material properties, click new, and leaving this all alone, come down here and make the roughness 0 and transmission 1, just like that. And the base color, click that, and two things, the value scale, drag it all the way up to the right, to the top, and add just a little bit of color. I'm adding slight green color to give it a, because it's glass, the color adds up very quickly, so I'm just touching a tiny bit of green in there. On the output, I'm clicking on the camera, and instead of EV here, I'm clicking cycles. And on the lamp, I'm clicking here, lamp properties. We have a spotlight, but the power is only 1,000, so I'm going to up that to 15,000. Enter. And then I'm going to create two more bottles here. So I'm going to Shift D and then the letter Y. And then I'm pulling this way a little bit. And then I'm going to left click on the first bottle again and Shift D, X, and move it back just a little bit. So now we have 3 bottles, 1 light. Let's preview it here. I'm going to click on in the upper right, this last orb gives us a preview. See how things are going. I'm going to add a second light against this wall, and I'm going to up the power here on this lamp. So I'm going to click on the light. Let me up that to 20,000. Even 20, let's try 30,000. Remember, if your light is further away, then you need more power. That's a good place to start. The world back here, I'm going to make it darker. So I click the World tab and click the color and drag this down, like so. And let me go back to solid mode, so that's this third one in. Orbit around, and then click on the 3D cursor here on the left, and left click somewhere like that, and Shift A, add a light, spotlight, and R for rotate, and rotate it up, and G, and then X to move it forward, and G for grabbing, and Y to move it left, and then G and Z to move it up. And in terms of its power and color, I'm going to click on the light again. Color, I added a little blue color. Power, 5,000. Let's see what that looks like. And click on the Rendered View tab. Okay, so that's kind of a hot spot right there. It's kind of interesting, but I may want to make that bigger. So under size here, I'm going to make that 2, enter, and that softens it. And in terms of the size down here, instead of 45 degrees, I'm making it 100 degrees. Excuse me. Okay, now we're ready to set up our camera and render this. So remember, hit the letter N and View, and lock camera to view, and then N to get rid of this menu, and then 0 on the numpad, and then zoom out. Let me go back to solid view so you can see a little bit easier first. And I'm panning. I'm going to click on the output tab, which is this little printer on the right, and change the X and Y resolution by scrubbing this left and scrubbing this one right and getting more of a square shape here. And then I want to kind of just see how things are going now by clicking the Render tab. And it's looking pretty good. So finally, because of the glass, I know that if I just click Render this with F12, the shadows will have a fair amount of noise in it. So I'm coming down to this Layers tab, which is right under the Printer tab, and at the very bottom scroll down and click Denoising. And then hit F12, and I'll pause it here. One thing I forgot to do, I'm noticing these little ripples on the glass, and that was smooth shading. So I'm going to escape this render, and I'll pause it here. So go back to solid mode here, and you can see all the little ripples in here. So if you left click on one of these, go back to the selection icon, the very top one, left click to select it, and then right click shade smooth, left click, then right click shade smooth, left click, right click shade smooth, and then it's ready to render again. So F12, pause the video. Okay, well that took 9 minutes and 9 seconds to render because of the glass, and also because, let me zoom out a little bit here. Well, there we go. But the wait is well worth it anyway. Look at these very cool refractions. This is the shadow from over here. This one is the top of this bottle coming down here, and where it turns a corner, the way this bunches up the corner here, etc. down here. Pretty cool. So if you would render about 3 views of this and post 1 or 2 views, or 3 if you want, to the class blog as well as into your Google Drive, that would be great. Good. See you on the blog.